So recently, I was working with a particular client and they were doing some real estate acquisitions. And what was happening here is they were opening up these new storefronts and they were doing everything in Excel. And so each project manager had a couple of their Excel sheets that they get together at the end of every week and sit in a room together where the director of operations would then plug this information into their master Excel sheet and giving these individual reports, everything went in there. Then they take this master Excel sheet and hand that up to leadership. The issue that was happening was that for them to collect all this information and pull it up to the leadership level, by the time it got up there would be about 2 to 3 weeks later. And so some of these stores were missing their openings and causing cascading effects from this, which at the end of the day is reducing their revenue potential because they're buying these new stores. They need to have them open so their customers can start visiting and it's paying money and driving that revenue stream. And because of these delays that were happening, they're losing weeks or months at a time on each store.
Is there like a common aha moment that clients have after they adopt Smartsheet with your framework?
Yes. The biggest one is always when we take a look at a portfolio level dashboard. So we build out dashboards for the major stakeholder groups and to allow them to see, hey, here are all of your projects, or if you're a project manager, here are all of your tasks across your projects. But for the leadership level, hey, you have 20 projects in the pipeline right now. 5 of them are going really well. You've got 6 that are about to go live next week, or the store is going to open. And here are 3 that are struggling. And here's what's going on. Here where the blockers are. This is in real time. So you can open this up when you're sitting down at your desk in the morning saying, what do we need to do today? Boom. Here's exactly what you need to do in real time to make sure that you can support the people that need the support and make sure that everything keeps going along.
So that leads me to, we've mentioned that you've implemented over 100 PMO systems. Are there any patterns that you see in what's broken before you're called in?
In terms of what's broken, I think a big pattern that I often see, and this is a base step that I take with all of my clients, is aligning on terminology. I can't tell you how many different times I go into a new project with a new client and we're saying, hey, all right, this is what we're defining as a project. And then someone else comes in and says, actually, I call that a sub project, and the larger project actually has multiple pieces to it. Or here's what we're talking about tasks. And what I find is that oftentimes people aren't speaking the same language at the same company. Obviously, yes, 9 times out of 10, they're all speaking English in the US, but they're not using the same terminology. Or when they are using the same terminology, they oftentimes mean something different. And this is something that I see across the board. And when we're going into these projects, the first thing we do is say, hey, let's sit down. Let's talk about what this means. Can we agree on the structure? I'm hearing this word over here. I'm hearing that word over there. Are they the same? Are they different? And if so, which one should we use going forward?
Interesting. So definitely some pattern. What do you consider the difference between just a functional tool and an
Mhm.
integrated solution?
A functional tool works at the individual level. So you might have, back to the Excel example, someone might have created an Excel workbook that works really well for them, but it's not integrated with the work that other people do, whether across project management or in other areas of the company as well too. One of the things I really like about Smartsheet in particular, and a lot of other work management platforms do this, is the ability to integrate with other platforms, connect through the API so that you can work with other areas of the company seamlessly. One of the things I oftentimes see is connecting to a CRM like Salesforce and saying, hey, every time that we sell a new project or acquire a new location or whatever that happens to be, the sales team goes over there and says, hey, all right, this deal's closed one. We're moving forward with it. Execution team, it's your turn to go in here and start doing this. That information can pass seamlessly across to the project management team that's now going to deliver on that work. That to me is a truly integrated system.
Makes sense. I agree. I totally agree. So do you think, actually a better way to ask this question, what role do you think automation plays in keeping teams focused and aligned?
Automation's big. But automation can also be a little bit of a double-edged sword depending on how you're using it. I think automation is really good for tedious, repetitive tasks, the kind of stuff where you spend all day doing double entry of data and probably get some of it wrong. Because, hey, let's face it, we're all human. Where I think automation comes up short is when we're taking out some of the human elements that should remain there. One of the big things in Smartsheet, caution people to use it wisely, is when it comes to automated notifications. We can automate the heck out of things and send people a bajillion notifications every day when they have tasks coming due or when something's gone off the rails and, hey, we have a red status ball that's popping up here. And actually, that's a really good one that you should do an automation for if it's urgent and important. But what people don't need in their lives these days is more emails. So I don't recommend automating emails as much as you possibly can. But the simple copy, paste, record a date, mark this item as closed when the status changes, automate the heck out of that. We all want to do less tedious, just data crunching, allow us to do more of that human element work where creative thinking is involved.
Yeah, we have a content creation section of our business. And one of the things that we utilize in our system is we have status fields, like what status is this piece of content at right now? And when we switch it, it assigns it to the appropriate person and it gives them a certain number of days to get it done. And it's just super effective because if person A is working on something and then they change the status to be like, I need my thumbnails done, then it assigns it to the thumbnail designer and it gives them a certain number of days to do it. And then when he switches it to review, then the person responsible for reviewing it reviews it. But if then they find that there's some changes that need to be made, they switch it to edits requested. What goes signed back to the same person, gives them a little bit
Yep.
smaller due date because now they're only editing, they're not completely creating. And it's just so much easier because I can't tell you when you don't use automation, how many times people, they forget to assign it to the person. They don't give them a due date or the due date's still from the past. It's just such a disaster.
Yeah, this makes sure that things don't slip through the cracks. Because if you're doing that manually, you need to assign it to someone, you need to give it a due date. You might need to change the status in there or add some description about what needs to happen. And then next thing you know, it's, but wait, I sent that over. No, you didn't. I'm sure I sent it over. Okay, where is it? This was due 3 weeks ago, but we forgot about it because somehow it got misplaced or misaligned there on the status. But if you can automate that, you take out the human error element of, oh, I need to do 3 steps to just change the status. Let's make that 1 step. And then it's super easy. It's going to be consistent. It's going to happen on time for you.
Yeah, I think it's funny how it's the little tiny things that can derail you in a big project. And I think it's because for the most part, we pay attention to the big things and it's the small things that you just, oh, that'll get taken care of.